Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Welcome, Fade to Black. Today is Monday, March 10th, 2025. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. Yeah, help support the show. Get yourself Fade to Black T-shirt. We have 2 shirts, 2 ways to get them, 2 links below. You know what to do. Starting off another week here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Jason Offutt is with us. Cryptid Encounters tonight. Tomorrow night, Preston Dennett is here. Humanoids and High Strangeness, his new book. Wednesday, Ellie Molina joins us. Psychic Abilities of Children. And then Thursday night, Paul Anthony Wallace is here. The Truth of Cosmic Contact. That is Thursday night. Great week coming up. And I do have 5 major events coming up. I've got Rise of the Guardians. That is March 29th and 30th, 2025 in Sedona, Arizona. Then I head to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities XPO, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2025 in Delavan, Wisconsin at Delavan Lake. And then I'm back here for Contact in the Desert, May 29th through June 2nd, Palm Springs, California. And then I head south, Peru, with Brian Forrester for the Inca Celebration of the Sun. That is June 17th through the 27th, 2025. I think it's sold out. You can go to the website and check, but we have a second tour coming up in November, and you get signed up for that. Then I head to the East Coast for the PSI Games because I'm a game show host for the Psychic Olympics. That is August 1st through the 3rd, 2025 in Charlottesville, Virginia. The links for everything that I'm doing are below. Got a very busy 2026 coming up, and I want to hang out with all of you all around the country. Okay. All right. Tonight, Jason Offutt is here. Cryptid Encounters. And we're going to get into the world of cryptid, shadow people, haunted legends. We're going to be separating fact from hoax and uncovering eerie encounters. From the mysterious hatman to red-eyed shadows, he explores chilling sightings, scientific explanations, and first-hand experiences. All of that and much more tonight with Jason, and he's right there. What's going on, Jason? How you doing, man?
Jimmy,
it's good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me on, man.
So, you're from a secret location. Where are you locating from tonight?
Oh, well, tonight I am in Lake Jackson, Texas, to visit my oldest child because she has my second grandbaby.
Oh,
So,
right on.
I've been up since 5:30 this morning traveling, and
Wait, hold on. Congratulations. First off.
Thank you.
Did she just have your grandchild?
About 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, Did you say second or first?
Second, she's 34. I never thought I was going to have a grandchild. And then my oldest son, who's 28, he and his girlfriend had a baby 1 year ago. So, yeah, I'm loving the grandkids.
Man, my daughter, Nicole, she's 30. She's going to be 30 this Saturday, I think is her birthday. And no, today's the 10th. Oh, I don't want to give her birthday away on the air. That would be uncool. But she's 30 and she's still farting around.
Hmm.
I'm like, there is, and you've been blessed now, your second grandchild. I'm a little bit jealous because as a parent, when your baby's first born, now you've gotten that out of the way. Okay. The reality hits. I'm going to be a grandparent someday.
Yeah.
And you count down, you're waiting. It's what there are certain rights, right? Certain rights. They're in the Constitution, man.
Right.
Declaration of Independence. You're a parent. You get to be a grandparent. Well, I'm still waiting.
Man, I went to a class reunion 2 years ago, high school class reunion for the first time in a long time, and everybody else there was a grandparent.
Yep.
Except
all of
me.
my friends are all of my friends are grandparents except for me.
Yeah, and I was ready for it, and I'm man, nothing. I love my kids. I loved it when they were little, but there's something different about the grandkids.
And
I'm not rubbing it in, Jimmy. Sorry.
It's gonna be the coolest thing ever. It has to be. Not taking anything away from our children. That was a magic moment.
Mm-hmm.
First held my daughter, right? She was like a minute out of the oven. They don't warn you. By the way, they don't tell you what a newborn baby looks like.
They're a mess.
Yeah. And you don't care. And for a second but anyway, I'm talking a minute out of the oven, like cutting cord, situation. And anyway, that moment is the most magical, special thing. I think that can only be overshadowed by holding a grandchild.
Yeah, I cannot argue with that whatsoever, because that's been my experience. And with my first grandbaby, she just turned a year old, and the last time I saw her, she was with her dad. They live quite a ways away, so I don't get to see her as much as I want. But her dad was holding her, and she reached for me. Right.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah,
I want that. Congratulations, man. That is so. And well, you didn't do it once. Now you've done it twice. Okay, it's time to share the wealth now.
Yeah.
Just put the vibe out.
I've got 5 kids, so I'm gonna have more than I can count.
Oh, that's awesome. And that is, like I said, it's life. You know what I mean? And so to be able to continue life like that and hold your grandchild, oh man. I spoil my daughter. She deserves everything, but I feel sorry for my grandchild.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be merciless. I'm gonna spoil, man. Okay, moving on. Let's move on.
This could be a whole hour right now, Jimmy.
We can talk children and grandchildren all night. And here's the other. Okay, one more child comment. Here's the strange thing. I have a stepdaughter and Nicole. All right. They're both the same age. And neither of them showed any interest in my job. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They showed interest in the paycheck. Yes.
That's how it goes.
But as far as UFOs or ghosts or Bigfoot, right? Life after death, consciousness, science, space, whatever. No. Never talked to me about it until they became adults. Very strange. And I said, what happened for all of these years? Why don't you guys talk to, because they know everybody. They know what's going on with the community. He said, Dad, me and our friends, we talk about this stuff all the time. We all watch the TV shows. We all watch YouTube. We're all into this. I said, why? It would have been cool if he came to us and came to me and said, hey, Dad, what's up with this ghost stuff? I saw a shadow person. ET floated through my wall last night. Something, but they didn't. Now they do. It's really weird that children of today are really into this subject. They don't necessarily talk about it with adults, but them and their friends, yeah, more than when you and I were kids. Don't you think that's the case?
Well, it is, because when I was a kid, I kept most of it to myself.
Right.
I mean, because my buddies were, reading books about, baseball players, and I was reading books about Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. So we didn't mesh there, and my kids don't ever talk to me about it at all. Now, my doctor called me one day and said, "Hey, I saw you on Ancient Aliens last night." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's cool." It kind of bothered my wife that my doctor was watching Ancient Aliens, but I'm fine with that. But yeah, my kids don't really care. They might when they're older.
My dentist, who's probably listening right now, which kind of freaks me out. And her dental, what do you call a dental assistant? I guess it says, well, she does a lot of stuff. Yeah. Like one step away from being a dentist. Anyway, my dentist steps out. The hygienist leans down and goes, "I'm really into this stuff. What do you think about the UFOs, the UAPs?" I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." So then later, my dentist goes, "Oh, so I was just checking out your social media. I love this stuff." Now, I think it's an opportunity for, like, right, your doctor or whatever that normally wouldn't talk about this stuff. Ancient Aliens gives them an opportunity to get the conversation started, doesn't it? They're not scared, just as long as they feel like they're in a good environment to do it.
There was the fear, and it lasted for forever, of being made fun of when you talk to somebody about this. And I can put a timeline on when I think things changed, and that timeline's probably the late 2000s up until the early 2010s. My first book on the paranormal, Haunted Missouri, came out in 2007. And when I was researching it in 2006, the part of the southwestern part of Missouri, that's the state where I live, nobody talked to me at all, because that is a part of the Bible Belt. You just don't talk. Nothing's haunted. Ghosts are evil. They're demons. We don't talk about it. So I kind of had to let that go. But the rest of the state, everybody would talk to me. Now, people are open, absolutely open, and I think it has to do with, you're right, Ancient Aliens, Ghost Hunters, all of the shows, and they see that they're not going to get made fun of anymore by talking about it.
Do you feel that all of this may be connected? And I'm talking about ghost, cryptids, Bigfoot, UFOs, life after death, parallel worlds, entanglement. Is it all deja vu? Like, throw that right in the middle, right?
Right.
And you think it's all connected?
In the past, when I first, really started getting into the paranormal, no, there were UFOs, there were Bigfoot, there were ghosts. All of this stuff is different. There's no way it's connected. But the older I've gotten and the more I've researched and the more people I've talked to, they are connected. They absolutely have to be connected, because there are so many UFO and Bigfoot encounters that happen around the same time at the same place. There are there have been UFO encounters that people have prayed to Jesus in front of the aliens, and the aliens have left them alone. There's something connecting everything. It's really holistic.
Now, you've got a book. Let's stay right here. You've got a book. It's called Chasing American Monsters.
Correct.
Now, what is a monster? What's an American monster? Isn't this a worldwide phenomenon? But what's a monster?
All right. When I was putting the book together, I picked that a monster is anything physical that we don't really know about. And by we don't really know about, I mean that science isn't ready to admit. So in Chasing American Monsters, we've got Bigfoot, we've got lake monsters, we've got a few UFO encounters, we've got some cases that are so flipping bizarre. I really don't know how to categorize them other than they're monsters. I've also thrown in animals that are supposed to be extinct, like the Shuka Warkikin. I think that's how it's pronounced. Maybe
that's close.
It's close enough. It looks like a prehistoric hyena from the Pleistocene era. Okay, so and I've included those either some that were real animals that aren't supposed to be alive anymore. I've got a book coming out, Chasing North American Monsters. It's coming out in September, and in that, I speculate that there are a number of Bigfoot encounters throughout the center of the United States that are the Jeffersonian ground sloth that went extinct during the Pleistocene era. So I think when it comes to monsters, it's just something physical and unknown to me. And
there are some out there that are going to say that just doesn't make any sense. Jason isn't making any sense right now.
Well, of course not. I mean, that's fine. I think a lot of people don't make sense in the paranormal area. Well, with the ground sloth, is that the one?
No, I'm just saying that when we look at any of this and we try to start to connect the dots, those out there that have gone through a classical education path, right, are going to go, no, that's not how it works. Jason isn't making any sense. That there is nothing that would point in that direction. That's their take.
Right,
and
right.
I would back off on that and go, wait a minute, you don't know any of this for sure. There is so much missing in the scientific and archaeological record. There are gaping holes in the science all over the place. It doesn't matter what field you're in.
Right.
Right.
I'm 100% behind that. I taught every 4 years at the university where I teach, I offer a class called Paranormal Journalism. And I teach young journalists, budding journalists, how to write about paranormal topics without, poking fun at it. And a number of the students who have taken my class before have told me, they say, Offutt, I don't believe in this stuff because there's not scientific proof. I just don't believe it. And I said, you don't believe in this because you haven't encountered it yet. As soon as you do, you're going to not believe, but you're going to know that this is what happened. There are, and eyewitness testimony in court means nothing, means next to nothing. But there are so many people out there who encountered, something big and hairy in the forest, that have encountered a little gray, bug-eyed, frozen turkey-headed alien. And there's physical evidence out there out there too. So, right, I agree. There's not scientific evidence, so we don't know this exists. But I say there's enough circumstantial evidence to prove it probably does.
Now, I want one. I haven't had a Bigfoot encounter. For some reason, I've ticked off everything else down the list, right? Pretty much. Mm-hmm. I've done everything but an exorcism, but it seems like, right, UFOs, life after death, ghosts, I've seen and experienced fairies, right? I've done just about everything. No Bigfoot for me. Have you had a Bigfoot encounter?
I have not, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna take a little sidestep that is, that really gripes me about people saying, and Neil deGrasse Tyson even said this about UFOs, and I love that guy. He puts science in a way everybody can understand. But he said, with all of the cameras out there that people are carrying around in their pockets, we don't have a good picture of a UFO or a Bigfoot. And I'm thinking about it. If I'm in the forest and all of a sudden I smell the skunk smell, and I see a 10-foot tall, hairy, 800-pound humanoid standing there, the last thing I'm going to think of doing is pulling my phone out and taking a picture of it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So why aren't there pictures? I think that has a lot to do with it. I saw this is before cell phones, but when I was a kid, myself, my mom, and my dad saw a UFO over our farm. We did have a camera in the house. I knew how to use it. Didn't think about getting it at all. I was too wrapped up in the moment.
Yeah, I've had hundreds of UFO sightings, and I only shot one.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I shot, the only reason why that those pictures were taken, there was a few, was because I was standing on the beach with a film camera, taking pictures of friends at the beach. We're all standing in the surf, right? There was like 3 of my friends in front of me, and we were taking turns taking pictures of each other. So I was there. Somebody points up. I got the camera. Snap, 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 right? That's the only reason that happened, right? But all the other hundreds of sightings that I've had happens too quick,
Yeah,
and it's
right.
I hate to use that as an excuse, but I've been standing there with my cell phone in my hand, and when that thing goes flip, flip, and it's gone, you don't even have time to react.
Well, and it's not just that. It's what lighting conditions do people usually see UFOs in or Bigfoot in? It's always dark. It's always really bad lighting conditions that you're not going to take a good picture anyway.
Well, the picture that I took, that was during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we had another fabulous sighting during the day, and about 3:00 in the afternoon, and cleared, beautiful, huge ship. And I jump up. There's like 30 of us. I'm yelling, video, 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 pictures, picture. I'm yelling, freaking out. That ship was up there for about 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Video was shot. Pictures were taken, all in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. Tell you honestly, if I were to pull my phone out, it takes me longer than 15 seconds to type in my password, get my camera app loaded, and take the picture.
Yep.
Way too much. Way too long.
Yep. I totally agree. Now,
well, I'm going to interrupt really quick because I've got another answer to the question about people not believing. People with a classical education not believing something that I say, and it really has to do with that classical education. Okay, science doesn't recognize local legends. They don't consider what indigenous peoples claim to have seen before, and a lot of what I covered in Chasing American Monsters and in the upcoming Chasing North American Monsters, a lot of it had to do with indigenous accounts of animals, and there are a lot of times that when science is going to stumble across something. An example is the Billy ape, Bili, from the Billy Forest in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The local natives talked about for years about these extremely tall chimpanzees that walked on 2 legs, howled at the moon. They made beds like gorillas, nests on the ground like gorillas, and they were able to physically kill a lion and they'd eat it. And Western science is like, okay, whatever, that's not real, until science went in and observed them. And oh my gosh, yes, 100%. Everything that the natives said was true. So if that was true, and if the Hobbit from Flores Island in Indonesia,
in Philippines, yeah,
I mean, that ended up being true, why aren't all these other accounts of Bigfoot and dragons and sea monsters equally as real?
How about the panda?
Well, right. I mean,
yeah.
the panda, the giant panda, the mountain gorilla wasn't recognized by science until the early 1900s. The okapi was, oh, what? It's a zebra and giraffe mix. There's no way that is real. Hell, when the first, the British were exploring Australia, one of the people sent back a stuffed, they taxidermied a platypus, and no one in the scientific circles in England believed that it was real. They thought
thought it was stitched together. Yeah.
Exactly. They thought that it was. They took a beaver and a duck and something else and stitched it together. It wasn't until a live one was brought that they actually recognized that it was it was real.
Now, one of the I'm going to call it phenomena that I have witnessed is when you go into the Pacific Northwest, like above San Francisco, Northern California, other side of the Bay, I should say, San Rafael, all the way to Alaska, right? But the Pacific Northwest,
right? You
go to any gas station, any restaurant, any just and stop in, and you are going to see Bigfoot T-shirts for sale. You're going to see Bigfoot coffee mugs, Bigfoot license plate rings.
At home, I have a Bigfoot coffee mug from Pikes Peak.
I've got so much of that stuff. I love it. But there's no UFO T-shirts next to the Bigfoot T-shirts. The Bigfoot community dwarfs the UFO community. It's so much bigger. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because and this is something we can talk about after this. It's because Bigfoot is flesh and blood. It is human-like. It is ape-like. It is something that they can better wrap their heads around. People can wrap their heads around than some extraterrestrial intelligence flying a spaceship, hundreds of light years across the galaxy. It's a lot easier to believe. Now, honestly, Bigfoot and UFOs, for gosh sakes, Carl Sagan, he didn't come up with this. He quoted somebody else. I can't remember who it is, but he said, given the billions of planets or billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and the planets orbiting them, if we're the only intelligent species in the universe, what a waste of space.
Right.
Okay. So when it comes to UFOs and intelligent life out there, I 100% believe it's, statistically speaking, it's gotta be. But it's still so far away. Bigfoot seems like something real that you could actually run into if you're out in the woods.
Yeah. So Bigfoot would be the most popular cryptid in America.
Absolutely. And for me, other than the thylacine of Australia, I think Bigfoot is the most likely candidate of a popular cryptid being actually discovered.
Yeah. And Carl Sagan, very smart guy. And a lot of he liked right? He's a big puff guy. He's a big 420 guy. And it's one of the things I liked about him. But he died before we started to discover exoplanets. Up until his death. Now, he died in like 96. The first exoplanet was found in 95, and which wasn't even confirmed until after he died. Okay? Now, I think that Carl would have changed his tune if he would have found out that the scientific fact, the cosmic fact about all of this in the universe is that every star has at least one planet. Well, he didn't know that before he died. So I think that his take on ET and life elsewhere in the universe would have been vastly different if he would have had that knowledge before he died. Because even Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of the biggest, he's a smart guy, but he doesn't think that there's any life out there.
Yeah.
And or anything
Or
that
any
would have visited
intelligent
this
life.
planet.
Yeah.
And even he is starting to change his tune, because the numbers, all of those physicists, they're pragmatic, they're black and white, they base their lives on math. The math says there's a shit ton of planets out there, a number so big that we don't understand it. Well, then there is also a huge number that supports life, and Neil deGrasse Tyson understands. And I think most physicists and astrophysicists today, even biologists, right, anthropologists, they understand there's a lot of DNA out there in the universe.
Right. And the building blocks of life we can find everywhere. Everywhere there's building blocks. There's organic matter all over the place. The thing that really kind of bothers me about scientists on this is that most of them are like, okay, sure, I'll give it to you. There could be intelligent life out there somewhere, but it's so far away they could never get here. And that is based on our science. Yeah, we can't get there, but they might be able to get here.
Yeah, that's ignorance. That's ego. That's hubris. That's a lot of different things all piled up, on top of each other. So the idea of where we are in evolution as humans, we're doofuses. We're doofuses.
Yeah.
And just imagine how far we've come in the last 100 years.
Oh my
Where
gosh,
are we going to be in the next?
I worked with a woman back in the night, like 1998 is when I worked with her. She was 105 years old. I worked at a newspaper, and she was a proofreader. For gosh sakes, she worked 7.5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I talked to her one day because she was alive for the Wright brothers and for Neil Armstrong setting foot on the moon.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
Absolutely mind-blowing, because that's one person being alive for all of that.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a short time.
I can't imagine to go from New Orleans ragtime jazz in 1910 to Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock in one lifetime. What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so if we just take that fundamental thing that you're talking about, 100 years ago, one lifetime, that's it, right? 100 years ago, you had all at the same time telephones, electricity, light bulbs, the phonograph, right?
Yeah.
To flight, right? All of this stuff, and there's more to it than that, plus music and radio and everything else, all happening at the same time. Now, 100 years later, look where we are. Well, talk about and think about an ET civilization that would have done that 1,000 years ago. Where are they today? Where are we going to be in 1,000 years? We can't even contemplate. We're going to be at a level of intelligence and understanding that we don't have a grasp of today.
Yeah,
that's what ET represents.
If we survive, because we're just a bunch of naked apes.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be a natural disaster that kills us. It's not going to be an asteroid. We're just going to do something stupid.
Yeah, it's going to be us. Well, that's one of the things. I'm glad everybody's thinking about that, because I talk about it a lot on this show. What is the most important question to ask ET? To me, it's not how do you cure cancer, global warming. faster than light space travel? How did you get? No, none of that. Those are all good
I
questions.
would ask what's better, In-N-Out Burger or Five Guys?
Well, that's easy. Five Guys sucks.
In-N-Out Burger.
But yeah, In-N-Out Burger. But the question you ask is, how did you guys do it? How did you survive yourselves? What's the secret to that? Because unless we get out of our own way, we don't get there.
No, that is a much better question than asking them a question about physics, about how they, how they flew here. It's, how they survived would do us so much, more good than any kind of science that we could get from them.
Yeah, like we would understand faster than light travel with consciousness entanglement. Yeah, we would understand that. No, we wouldn't, but we would certainly understand how to get out of our own way and grow up to be adults.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna, hold my breath, man, until that happens.
What's the best? We have Patterson Gimlin and that encounter. What's the best Bigfoot encounter that you've heard?
Oh my gosh, the best Bigfoot encounter. I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, this happened in Canada. I think back in the 19th. Osterman, maybe the guy's name was Osterman. I think it was because I wrote about it in Chasing American Monsters. That came out in 2019. So forgive me that I don't remember it, but he was out. He was prospecting, and he was sleeping in a sleeping bag, and all of a sudden he was lifted up. He had no idea what was going on, but something picked him up and flopped it over its shoulder and just took off with him. And he eventually, was put down, and it was a Sasquatch. And there was the alpha male. There was an older female. There was a young female and a couple of young males. And he had the feeling that he was going to be that they wanted him to mate with the young female, is what he thought. And they kept him there for a few days, and he had some snuff. And the alpha Sasquatch was fascinated by the snuff, so he gave it to him, and the thing ate it. And that didn't go over well. He got sick. And in the chaos, he was able to get away. Now, that's a fanciful story, but what I like about it is that he waited for decades before he told anybody. If you were wanting to, make some money off it, you probably would have done it right off the bat.
I think I would have kept that story to myself.
Yeah.
That reminds me. Do you know who Ronnie Dawson is?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
You know who he is. Ronnie Dawson was one of two oilmen in Texas that had a series of UFO encounters back in the 90s. And the stories are absolutely incredible. And the pictures that he took, and they flooded the internet in the mid 90s. And his story, he's been on the show a couple of times. He's great. He's fantastic. And his photographs are amazing. And him and his, but they're just oil workers in Galveston, Texas, and they're watching these craft land off in the oil fields. And so anyway, put that aside. He has a little soiree. Yeah, with the cat alien woman.
Yeah.
Feline.
Okay.
And I think he took it a step further, man. I think there was a male cat involved too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he tells a story, and he laughs about it, because he knows what it sounds like. It's crazy town. But the amount of people that have talked about hybrid programs, semen being removed, eggs being removed, hybrid babies, being shown your hybrid baby, things like that, where you hear it enough. And if somebody's going to tell a story like that, then I think we need to listen. It's not, we're driving down the road, I saw something out of the window. No, this is, you know what I mean?
Right. It depends on how he told it, because I think one of the most credible stories is the Pascagoula encounter. Because these two men, they were dock workers, I think, and they just went fishing. And the aliens that they reported sound absolutely ridiculous. But the police reports, the police said these guys were scared to death. They had them in two different rooms. They told the same story. They didn't go out and try to get fame off of it. I mean, I think they wrote books later, but they were trying to, forget about it. And over the years, their story never changed. That, to me, is extremely credible.
Yeah, Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson.
Right.
And, to me, I did an interview, I think maybe once, twice, Calvin Parker on the show before he passed away. Coolest interview, coolest guy. Just amazing interview. But the tape that the police recorded in the interview room, right? They left the tape recorder running and they split. And Hickson and Calvin, Hickson and Parker, are sitting there alone talking about it. And that tape is what supports that entire case. Those guys were freaked out.
And they didn't know they were being recorded.
No.
Yeah.
I just find that incredible. Now, why haven't we gotten a Bigfoot body yet? Or is it because is it interdimensional? Is there something else?
All right. Now, okay, here's where we go with interdimensional Sasquatch. And I'm gonna throw nuts and bolts craft, from UFOs into this whole thing. I am not discounting interdimensional Sasquatch. I'm not discounting that, UFOs are from an underground breakaway civilization or from they're time travelers or all, another dimension. But until it's proven that Sasquatch is not a flesh and blood creature or that UFOs aren't nuts and bolts craft, those are the easiest answers for me. So I'm going to stay with those. Why we haven't had a body? That's a great question. Now, a lot of things go on in the woods. And you mentioned the Pacific Northwest earlier, and Bigfoot's been seen in every Canadian province. It's been seen in every state except for Hawaii. Even freaking Rhode Island has had Bigfoot encounters.
Right.
But woods, unless they get shot at the edge of a forest, they're going to be deep enough in the woods that if they fall dead, somebody might not come near them for a long time, especially up in the Pacific Northwest. My God, there's 4 tracts of land out there people haven't walked on for a century or more.
No, or ever.
Or even ever. So, and the forest takes care of a mess like a dead body. You got scavengers. You've got porcupines they eat bones. All right. You have all sorts of animals just getting rid of the carcass. But if Sasquatch is intelligent, like it seems to be, who says they don't bury their dead? And one of the things that really, annoys me is that, well, I mean, I'm out in the forest. If a Sasquatch is here, I'm going to see it. Or, it's going to, if a Sasquatch vanishes in a forest, it's because, they're from a different dimension. Well, I've spent a lot of time in the woods, and there have been plenty of times to where I've been walking and I've disturbed a deer. A deer's not as big as a Sasquatch, but it's still at least 150, 175 pound animal. And I couldn't see it. I had no idea I was within 10 foot of this animal. And if a Sasquatch is, an animal and an intelligent animal, I'm sure it can hide extremely well.
If most people, and when I say most have not had the opportunity to drive on a windy mountain road through the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
And until you have done that, you don't have any concept of what a dense forest looks like that doesn't end.
Okay, I had not
those mountains, those rolling hills, and you look out the window, and I guarantee whatever spot you're looking at, no human has ever walked. And it goes on forever.
Forever. I know. There's huge. I mean, because people think of the United States as being completely explored, and it's not. And I have not driven on a road like that in the Pacific Northwest, but I have plenty in Colorado, in the mountains, and it's the same type of forest. Maybe not as much, but I've also driven plenty in East Texas. Have you ever driven in East Texas?
Man, and Texas has got all of the elements. It's got Antarctica, desert. It's got mountains and forest and farmland. It's everything there. When I say Antarctica, it's snow. It's serious winter there.
Yeah, the East Texas has got pine forests.
Yeah, pine
that
forests.
are huge swaths of trees, and they're thick. And yeah, I can definitely picture a Bigfoot hiding there. We got the skunk ape in the swamps of Florida, for gosh sakes. Of course.
You said every state except Hawaii.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Are they all the same description?
No. And which, it really makes me curious on how many species we're talking about, because most of the species of Sasquatch, or most of the Sasquatch encounters are like the Harry and the Hendersons guy, that depiction of a Sasquatch. The ones in Florida, the skunk ape, are smaller and more like an orangutan. There are other places in the country that they're more chimpanzee-like. In New Hampshire, they've got the wood devils, which are 7 foot tall Sasquatch-like creatures that are shy and gray fur and really thin. So, I mean, they change. They're different ones. What I was talking about earlier when I mentioned the extinct giant ground sloth, and those things grew up to be, 10, 12 feet tall.
They were big. They were like 800 pounds. Yeah.
Oh, they were huge. They were the size of a Sasquatch. And they would walk on two legs, their hind legs. They would eat not just plants, but they would eat meat as well. And there are modern sightings, one in Canada from 1985. An entire family described this, and then were shown a photograph, or not a photograph, but a picture. And they were like, oh my gosh, that's it. Down in the Yucatan Peninsula, they have what they call cave cows, which are described exactly like the giant ground sloth. And one of the, other than the fact that they're the size of a Sasquatch and hairy and can walk on two legs, it's the fact that they have three clawed toes. And in research,
really?
Yeah. And in researching this, the Honey Island swamp monster in Louisiana was a three-toed Sasquatch. In Arkansas, the folk monster, Legend of Boggy Creek, was a three-toed Sasquatch.
That is correct. Yes.
Momo, the Missouri monster from 1973, the encounters in Louisiana, Missouri, was a three-toed Sasquatch. There were three-toed Sasquatch reports in eastern Iowa and in Minnesota.
Is there any evidence that those sloths could walk on two legs?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, their science has said they could.
But they did it slowly.
Yeah. No, I think these things were.
I had to go there. I had to go there.
You had to go there. But what I'm looking at.
Have you heard, Jason? Let me jump in before we get to a break. I think it was 1880 in Vermont, there was a published report of the wild man from the woods that came out, attacked a stagecoach, right? Shook it, freaked everybody out, like ripped the doors off, and then ran back in the woods. Now, everybody in the stagecoach, including who the driver was, all gave their reports to the local newspaper and to the sheriff or whoever, and said that it was a furry man without clothes. Yeah, isn't that, now that's 1880,
right? Well, there were a lot of reports, and back in the day, that's what they called him. They called him wild man. In the early 1900s, there was a report about a gorilla in Kansas, of all places. But yeah, these things, you call them what you know at the time. And at the time, back in the 1800s, they didn't know about, gorillas and whatnot. So yeah, wild men. There's also a report from the 1800s. It's apparently in the Book of Mormon of a pastor riding at night, riding his horse, going back home, and he encounters an enormous, hairy human. And that human tells the pastor that he is Cain from the Bible, and he's been doomed to walk the earth forever and not die because he killed his brother. So, I mean, there are reports in all sorts of incredible places.
The idea of those that read the Bible, and if you go back to any length of time throughout history, the supernatural was just a part of life. Resurrection, ghosts, angels, all of the
vampires,
miracles, right?
Right.
It was so a supernatural mindset was normal. I know it sounds crazy to say, but when you suggest that, right? That, condemned to walk the earth because I killed my brother. That's who I am. Well, coming from a religious witness makes sense.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about an interdimensional Bigfoot, then is there a leap to shadow people? Are they the same thing?
Oh, I wouldn't put that. Here's my thoughts on Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot is, other than the three-toed one, which is weird, but I really think Bigfoot's an offshoot of humanity, and here's why. Because Native Americans, that they considered Bigfoot as, it was part of their belief. It was another tribe of people. They were just large and hairy, but they were another tribe of people. And when it comes to DNA evidence, there was a Bigfoot hunter or a Bigfoot researcher in Alberta, Canada, who had some evidence, DNA evidence of Bigfoot, and it was analyzed. And what the analysis was that it was human DNA, but it had some anomalies in it. Okay, that was also Dr. Melba Ketchum, and hers. That DNA came back as human, but with some anomalies. There was a British researcher who dug up the son of Zana. Zana was an Alma, which was the Russian Bigfoot that was captured by a village, and they made Zana do work for them, but they also had sex with her, and she had a son. And he had the son's body exhumed and took DNA evidence from the bones, and that came back as human, but with some anomalies. Well, what if the anomalies are the fact that it's 8 foot tall and 700 pounds and covered in hair, but other than that, it's human? That would fit in with a lot of other theories that it's a Neanderthal or whatever. That would make a lot of sense to me, because if it were an North American ape that a lot of people put their money on, why doesn't it have ape feet? Why does it have human feet? I mean,
again, too many sightings, too many things. I haven't had a Bigfoot, so I've seen Bigfoot prints in the ground, which was pretty trippy, by the way. But way too many sightings. And I have often said, and then we're going to take a break, if we had UFO footage that was as definitive as the Patterson Gimlin film, then it would be Bigfoot case closed or UFO case closed. But we don't look at the Patterson Gimlin film that way.
Right. And I've said something similar, that if we had the evidence that we have, I mean, dermal ridges on footprints, for God's sake. If we had that evidence in a murder trial, somebody would be going to jail for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I agree. Yeah. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Jason Offutt, is with us. It's a cryptid night on Fade to Black. We'll be right back after. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black T-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 T-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black T-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Bumapunku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level, and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice, right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jason Offutt is with us. It's all cryptids all night long. That's right. And I want to talk about shadow people. What I think I've got shadow people right now. I do. But I think that so many, when they hear that words, shadow people, their definition is not quite right. Who are shadow people?
Starting off, when I was a kid, I was about 9 or 10 years old. I grew up on a farm in the country, and we could have our blinds open all the time because we didn't have to worry about anybody looking in because nobody lived near us. So whenever the moon was out, my room was gray. Man, in the 1970s is when it was. You could tell by the fact that I could see the Farrah Fawcett poster on my wall when I was laying in bed. But one night, I remember I just turned the light off, and I was about ready to lay down, and in the corner of my bedroom, something moved, and I froze, and this darker than night, blacker than night, human-shaped figure broke from the wall and walked past my bed and out the door and into the hallway. And that happened over the next couple of months, every once or twice a week, maybe. Sometimes it was one, sometimes it was more than one, but it scared the hell out of me. It looked like the back of a refrigerator magnet. You know what I mean? It's flat magnet. You pull them off. It's like it was 2-dimensional, and it walked in a sort of jerky way, like a Filmation cartoon from the early 70s. It was really, really jerky. And I kept that to myself for a long time. And then I was listening to Art Bell in the 90s, and he started talking about shadow people. And I'm like, that's what I always called them. That's what I saw. And I started to research them, and I found that I don't think they're just one thing. I think they are a number of different entities that just look the same, whether intentionally or by accident. Some of shadow people, by their appearance and actions, I think are residual ghosts. Because for my book, Darkness Walks, The Shadow People Among Us, I interviewed probably 250 people from around the planet. And a lot of their stories were the same, enough to where I made categories out of them. The benign ghost ones, or the residual ghost ones, I refer to as benign shadows, because what they did was, I don't know, just every once in a while you'd see them walk down the stairs, turn the corner, go into the kitchen. And when you went in there to look, they were gone. Okay, that's what a residual ghost does. Some of them, like the ones that walked through my room, it looked like they were going from one place to another, point A to point B, and my room was just in the middle. They paid no attention to me whatsoever. And I interviewed a number of people about this. The scientists that I interviewed scoffed at this, but it kind of seemed to me that maybe, okay, John Keel, the famous researcher, paranormal researcher, said that he felt there were window areas in certain spots where the veil between worlds or veil between dimensions was really thin and something can walk through. And I put together that maybe the ones that look like they're going from one place to another, that might be a window area, and they might just be people, and all we can see is their shadow.
We could be shadow people to somebody in another dimension. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There are others. I interviewed an archbishop, a Catholic archbishop, an expert in Hinduism, an expert in Islam, Cherokee shaman, an expert in the Hopi religion, and a Buddhist. and what I came out with is that all of these religions and philosophies had shadow people. They were demons. They were the jinn. In the Cherokee shaman that I interviewed, they were witch doctors. I can't remember the Cherokee word for it. It was really cool, but I can't remember what it is. They were witch doctors who used their abilities for greed, for selfishness, and that turned them into something less than human that appeared as shadows. The Hindus had the absolute the best explanation is it's just reincarnation. That's a spirit going on to a different incarnation.
See, that would I agree with that partially, because that's just another subcategory.
But right.
You know what I mean? Because there's so many versions of things. Now, you and I were talking before the show. I'm not going to get into details, but I've seen a lot of crazy stuff lately here in my home. Mm-hmm. But some of it has gotten so frequent that I just ignore it. For instance, and I'm wondering how many people do what I do. And I think that number is really large. So I was over the weekend watching a TV series. I think it was the new Formula One on Netflix, by the way, which is top notch. Anyway, so I'm binging that. I'm eating. I went out and I got some chicken, some Mexican chicken. Came back and I was making some street tacos in my family room. I say all of this for a reason. I'm focused. I've got my rice, I've got my corn, I've got my salsa, I've got my soft corn tortillas, I've got my onions, my cilantro, and the chicken, and I'm in the middle of this process, and you don't want to screw it up. So I'm doing that while watching TV. Off to my left, right? I'm watching TV and I'm making my street taco. Off to my left, I get this shadow goes from front to back. Okay. I glanced, nothing there. And I kept eating. I'm watching TV. I just let it go. You know, to anybody else, they would have jumped up, freaked out, made phone calls, lit some sage, right? How many people go through that all the time? And to not react anymore, just like, it's like my grandmother when I was a kid. Oh, that's just our ghost.
Yeah. Well, and that might be what you saw. That might just be the ghost, and a shadow is all that it's able to manifest. Because I mean, everything takes energy, and if that might be just all. The ones that really bothered me out of all of this are the Hatman and shadows with blazing red eyes.
Let's go. Okay, Hatman different from Slender Man?
Well, yes. Okay, that's man. You're going to someplace else.
No, I'm not. Dude. I love this subject.
All right.
Okay,
Well, okay. Let me just say something about Slender Man. It was fictional. Okay, completely made up for creepypasta. However,
we manifested that into reality, man.
That's what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because, and I think same thing happened with Black-Eyed Kids. I mean, somebody started talking about these things. The Black-Eyed Kid, when I know the guy, I've interviewed him a couple of times, but when it got into the public eye and people started talking about it, there are entities out there that take, I firmly believe this, even though I don't have physical evidence for any of it, but I firmly believe there are entities out there that take advantage of the popularity of some of these entities to terrorize people. And I did interview a couple of people who claimed that they were dead serious to me that they encountered Slender Man.
Yeah. Yes.
And
do you remember Grand Theft Auto?
I only played the
video
first
game
version.
Okay. There was a version of Grand Theft Auto, 4 or 5, whatever, that had Slender Man. And there was this one spot in the game, and I didn't know about. I'm playing the game, and I pull over, and I got out of my car, and I was walking through the woods up to this cabin, and I see something behind me. I turn and look, and there's this dude following me way back there. And I'm trying to figure out how to get into this cabin. And it turned out to be Slender Man. And so Slender Man, so I get into the cabin, house, whatever it was. It's been a while. I get the door closed. Slender Man is trying to get in the windows. And every time you look, he come walk. Anyway, once Slender Man got you in the game, you couldn't shake him. No matter where you went in the game, he would now show up. It followed me into my dreams. It was so creepy, that part of the game. And anybody that's played it knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that's part of how you can manifest this, where it now starts to enter your reality, where I'm dreaming this stuff.
Right. Well, I did wrote a lot of early encounters with Black-Eyed Kids. And my wife, she said, Jason, UFOs, Bigfoot, time travel, ghosts, man, all this stuff, I don't care about it. It's fine. But I don't want you to write a book on Black-Eyed Kids, because I was getting ready to do that. She said, because if one of those comes to our door, it's your ass, buddy. You got to pick your battles with people. So I didn't write a book. But the point is, it could have happened. It might not have been whatever people think Black-Eyed Kids are, but it was something being them. I think the best example of conjuring something into existence, I read an interview. I can't remember. God, I'm really being really bad here with my memory. But the guy who created Constantine, the comic book character that,
Right.
Yeah. He was in a coffee shop in London, and he was sitting there, and Constantine, he said that it was the character I created, walked past him,
No, right.
stood in line, got a cup of coffee, turned and stared at him for a moment before walking out the door. And he said he knew in his heart that was his creation. And it's just, I mean, that's an example of what we're talking about right now, about if you believe in something, or if you put enough energy into something, it manifests. So, guys out there, watch what you're thinking about later.
And you brought up creepypasta. Last week on the show, I talked about this. I don't know what got in my head, but I used to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I used to listen to a lot of creepypasta, like a lot. So I don't know, man. Last week, I was like, hey, man, whatever happened to creepypasta? Turns out you can find it on Audible, right? So pull it up. I haven't done it in best of creepypasta, whatever. And I turn out the lights and I'm listening to creepypasta. I got about halfway through the first story. I'm lying there in the dark, right? I can't do this. I can't do it. I'm done. I jump up, flip open my iPad, and I turned it off. I couldn't do it. I started hearing things in my house.
Yeah.
It's that manifesting that you're talking about.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't do this very often because I've done it a couple of times and it kind of freaks me out. There was a raffle at work, and I kind of wanted what the gift or the prize they were offering. So when they were, pulling the number, I'm like, okay, because I don't ever win shit. Okay. But I was thinking in my head, I was just going, Jason Offutt, and they pull out something, they go, Jason Offutt. Like, so I won it. That was great. And there's more to mind power than we really, tend to recognize. And that has to do with manifesting something.
So I was okay. And this is how it's really strange. And we're going to move on from creepypasta, but so I'm listening to a book on Audible, science thing or ancient Egypt or whatever, and nonfiction. And I go to sleep. I guess the book ended. I don't know it, but I started to dream about drilling holes in my head with a power drill. All right. It was freaky. And I wake up, I'm in this cold sweat. I'm like, what the hell was that about? And I'm listening, and it was a story on creepypasta.
Mm-hmm.
So the book had ended, started playing creepypasta from last week, and it was some story about, I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah. And it was a dark, great, weird dream. Stuff oozing out. My head was like a wiffle ball. I was like, what?
Well, Egon Spangler tried that, but Ray Stans stopped him from drilling a hole in his head.
Man. Now, the Hatman has been a part of just about every culture on this planet for 1,000 years, maybe more, right? I mean, this isn't something new.
No, it is. You know what? There's really not a lot of things that are new. The Hatman is a shadow person, but it wears a fedora. And I mean, why a fedora? I don't know. Maybe he's an Indiana Jones fan. I don't know. But they never represent something good, something positive. The Hatman is always something, the portent of evil. I had a student, a kid named Cody. He told me a story about him and his brother. They lived in Iowa, and they lived in the basement of their house. And it really bothered him or him and his brother, because as teenagers, they would watch at night this entity with a hat. They called him the cowboy because of his hat. He would just pace back and forth on one end of their room, and they couldn't see anything in his face. You never can see a shadow person's face, but they felt it was staring at them. But they thought it was trapped, and it couldn't get any closer. And then he went to college, and it took about a year. You know, he was like, okay, I'm done with this. It's not following me. And then one night he heard music coming through the fan that he's one of those guys who has a fan on when he sleeps. And he said he heard old time, like 1920s music coming through it. And he woke him up, and he looked, and there was the cowboy, this shadow figure with the hat on. And when he graduated, it happened again. He didn't see it for about a year. And the last time he saw this entity, he was sitting in his car at a mall in Omaha, Nebraska, pure daylight. And there was a knock on his door, and he looked, and this shadow being with the hat was standing outside his car. It had tapped on his window.
So it went physical.
It went physical. Yeah, it went physical.
Ooh.
And then it dissipated. And he was convinced that it was telling him that I'm still with you. Now, a lot of shadow people encounters end up in not a good place. They end up being, you know, people get terrified. I interviewed a guy who saw a shadow, or saw a hat man glaring at him through the kitchen.
Is it before? Is it before a big event?
No, not with this. With the shadow people who have red glowing eyes, that is usually before a big event. And really? And as the Hopis, they have shadow people in their belief system, and they're a portent of death. They're omens. Somebody's going to die if you see a shadow person. Okay, so
that's. Do you change your life because of something like that? You know what I mean? Do you alter, or do you just keep doing what you're doing, or do you suddenly change your patterns because of that? That's and can you change the future?
Well, I guess it would depend on who the shadow person's there for, and you don't really know. I worked with a woman who she knew how interested I was in paranormal topics, so she asked me about shadow people, and because she said she was seeing them out of the corner of her eye. She saw one out of the corner of her eye a lot, but it started getting closer and closer into her field of vision. And soon after that, she discovered that her husband had esophageal cancer. And she started seeing the shadow person more until she could see it straight on. And her husband died. So she was convinced that it was telling her husband was going to die. And that sure as hell's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, because if we look at, I'm just wondering if there's a connection historically, where you have death or the grim reaper, or you go through the different plagues from around the world, and how death would come and seek out people. Mm-hmm. Well, the descriptions of what death looked like seems to be what we would call the Hat Man today. Well,
yes, and there are also people who see what they call the Grim Reaper. A shadow being in a cloak with a hood that looks like death. So yeah, there are a lot of, again, different variations that Some of them do turn out to be the same. The ones in the hats and the hoods, and again, the ones with the red eyes are kind of different. I've mentioned those a couple of times. They tend to be more vampiric. I mean, they don't bite you, but
okay. So many reports. I've talked to people that have experienced this, where they have been attacked by a shadow being with red eyes standing above them in bed, or pushing them down, or holding their throat. That always seem to be red glowing eyes. And then the indigenous cultures that have the shadow dogs with glowing red eyes without legs. There's a lot of stories like this.
There are a lot of stories. The ones with the red eyes tend to, and this is coming from the people I've interviewed. They would say things like, it felt like it was instilling fear in me just so it could feed off of that negative energy.
What's the scariest story that you have when it comes to shadow people?
God, there are a lot of them, but one woman I talked to, she was 8 months pregnant, and she lived in a 2-story house. As pregnant women do, she had to get up and go to the bathroom a lot. And she got up in the middle of the night and walked down to the bathroom and was sitting on the toilet looking down the hallway where the bedrooms went off from. And there were 2 red glowing points. And she initially thought, oh, that's, the cars, the brake lights of a car. And then, she was like, wait a second, no, I'm on the 2nd story of a house. It can't be the brake lights of a car. And then they started getting closer, and she could make out the black form of a dog coming toward her. She started screaming, and her husband came into the hallway and turned the light on, and it was gone. But just imagine somebody who was, she was 8 months pregnant and in one of the most vulnerable positions a person could be on. She was sitting on the toilet, and this thing that looked like a black dog with red eyes was coming at her in her own house.
That's when you go to the bathroom armed after that.
Yeah.
When do we ignore this stuff until it gets negative or violent? But before that, is it just a thing? And when do we start to do something about it? When do we get into a defensive posture? Or even go offensive?
Well, I think the way people tend to do it is ignore it until it gets to the point to where you can't ignore it. And then you call somebody in to, you mentioned it earlier, somebody come in to sage the house. And I've talked to people who, had somebody come in and sage the house, and it just pissed the ghost off, or the demon, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So, what do? Do you move? You know what? These things aren't bound to any geographic spot. And
so are you suggesting they follow people?
I'm suggesting not just shadow people, but ghosts in general, spirits. They follow people. Absolutely. If you guys out there, if you like going to haunted places, hunting for ghosts, you know what? A ghost might take a liking to you and follow you home. That happens. I've had that happen. And that's why I stopped writing about ghosts. I've stopped researching ghosts, and I do cryptids, because I've never had Bigfoot follow me home.
Yeah. Safe. Yeah. Now, what about, let's talk about the murder house for a second in Iowa.
In Villisca, Iowa?
Yeah, Villisca. Tell us about that case.
All right. In 1912, a family, they went to a church picnic. It was in July, and the children were playing with friends of theirs, and they asked their mom, hey, can these kids come home with us and stay the night. And both parents, both moms said, sure, that'll be great. So they went home and had dinner and played a little bit and went to sleep. What they didn't know was there was a guy hiding in the attic with the axe. He didn't even bring his own axe. It was the family's axe. And he came out and he killed everybody. Everyone in the house died from blunt force trauma to the head with the back of the axe, except for the father, who was killed with the blade. One of the children apparently saw the guy as he was doing it because the child's arm was broken from blunt force trauma. And the cops speculated that, she was trying to protect herself. What the speculation was that it was either a traveling preacher who vanished the same night, or a business rival, or half a dozen other explanations. But what it was is this town of 1,200 people in 1912 all of a sudden were thrown into this entire family was murdered. How the parents, this is to me one of the worst parts, how the parents of the two children who stayed the night found out their children were dead, is that she called the operator, because back then you had to do the plug-in operator thing, and asked to be connected, to this family's house. And the operator said, oh, nobody can answer because everybody got killed last night. Horrible way to find out. But since then, the house has reportedly been haunted.
Of course it's haunted.
Of course it's haunted, yes.
I've never heard about this case. How did you hear about this case?
Oh, it's like 50 minutes away from where I live. And people know about it there.
What? Wait. 15 minutes?
50.
Okay, it's still too close.
It's way close. Yeah. I interviewed a guy named Darwin Lynn, bought the house and turned it into.
Still there?
He died, but the house is still there. Yeah, the house is still there.
Holy crap! Have you been there?
Oh, twice. Yeah, I took a class there. My paranormal journalism class there. But they rented it out for the longest time, and people didn't stay there more than 6 months to maybe a year because of the haunting. And when they were going to tear the house down, Darwin Lynn bought the house, and because it was the biggest piece of history for Villisca, Iowa, and turned it into a place to where people come and do ghost investigations, and it is packed. Year in advance. But there's, again, they're not only the children's ghosts reported to be there, but the evil entity that is left over from the murderer. Okay.
But you are crazy. Okay. What do you feel when you go into the house?
All right. I've been to the house twice. This is what happened when I took my class. 2 weeks before I took my class, one of my students came to me and said, I had a dream last night that we went to the house and there were these really skinny stairs to go upstairs to two of the bedrooms. And I walked into the children's bedrooms, and on the bed was a Raggedy Ann doll. And I walked in and it turned its head to look at me. And then I woke up. And I'm like, okay, Kara, that's a cool dream. I love that. Okay, so we go there. Now we take a tour of the cemetery first to see the graves of all these people whose ghosts are most probably still in the house. And then we go to the house. When we get to the house, before we go in, I tell everybody, don't be Zach Baggins. Okay? I don't want you to yell at the ghosts. I don't want you to challenge them. Just speak nice. And this one guy named Stratton King said, Oh, I'm going to yell at the ghost. I'm going to do it. So we get in the house, and he's yelling, "Okay, you cowards, come out and face me. You ghosts. Yeah, if you're not going to come out and face me, you're weak." And while he's off doing that, the girl who had the dream goes up the stairs, and it's a really narrow staircase. And I'm not paying attention, and all of a sudden, an ear-piercing scream comes from upstairs. And she pounds down the stairs, and the upstairs was exactly like the dream she had. There was even a Raggedy Ann doll lying in the same spot on the same bed that she dreamt. It didn't turn its head, of course, but it was there. And that was scary enough. I also told my students, do not bring a Ouija board. They brought one, and they went into the attic area where the killer waited. And the Ouija board spelled out 2 of the names of the students who were in the room. And then they were like, okay, we're done. we're canceling this. I had students report that they got tapped on the shoulders when behind them all that was there was a wall. But the thing that I was there personally in the room for is we were in a small we were in a cupboard room, a pantry in the kitchen, and it was really cold in the pantry. And one of my students had a Frank's box. And for those of you out there who might know what that is, not know what that is, it's an electronic device that scans static on the FM signal. It's basically EVPs in real time. Okay, so the guy started asking questions. Is anyone in the room with us? And it went, shh, did the static thing. And a male voice said, yes. I could discount that. That could just be, you can pick yes out of the ether. All right, no problem. But he started asking a bunch of questions, and he got yes, no answers. Same voice. At one point, he said, are you angry we're here? Shh, yes. Who are you angry with? Stratton.
Really? The kid?
The kid who was being a jerk and challenging the ghost.
Right.
I tried to discount this by doing, looking on a map, and there was no town called Stratton anywhere. I mean, that's not a common name. If it would have said Bob or Joe or Jill or something, I would have discounted it. But it said the strange name, the odd name of the one kid who was being a jerk. That was pretty cool.
Who was the dude in the attic? Who did he turn out to be?
They never solved it.
What? He was just some strange? Or they never caught him?
They never caught him. The best speculation was the father had worked for the local John Deere dealer, and he went off on his own to be a tractor supply guy and took a lot of customers with him. So the speculation is that it was his business rival who had him killed. However, they never caught him. The father, before he went to bed, put his wallet, all of his money, his keys, everything on the kitchen table, wasn't touched. There was bacon that was taken from the larder that the cops speculated that the criminal rubbed on his feet so the dog wouldn't have his scent when he escaped. The wildest, and actually it's kind of a cool theory, that the person who killed that family with an axe is the same person who, by rail, went south through Oklahoma. There were some axe murders in Oklahoma at that time, and then down to Louisiana. Are you familiar with the axe murder of Louisiana, of New Orleans, who said if every house and every bar isn't playing jazz tonight, I am going to kill people?
I've heard this story.
Right.
Yes,
So
yes.
there is some speculation that it was the same guy. Of course, no evidence whatsoever, but it's a fun story.
What is it? what is it about the Midwest, Iowa? We'll talk about Iowa specifically. That's where you live, but compared to like Los Angeles, where we don't have ghost stories out here, but they're everywhere in the Midwest. And
Right. And I live in Missouri. I live about 15 minutes away from Iowa, so I'm close enough. But
right.
what else do we have to do out here?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. How to offend your audience, Jimmy? You just do it like that. But you're right. That story of the axe murder in Villisca, Iowa, is a campfire story that we've heard a million times.
Yep,
it's the escape convict from the asylum, the hook in the door.
It's the hook in the door, exactly. Yeah.
But that story's true.
Oh yeah, 100% true.
What?
Yeah, the day that they found the murders, the local hardware store sold out of door locks because nobody locked their doors. They did then. I think stories like this play better in small Midwestern towns because you don't expect something like that. You don't expect a family to be murdered with an axe in a small Midwestern town. Because we're all nice people out here. We hold the door open for each other. We say, I'm sorry, way too much.
Okay. I just looked up. Oh, wow. Okay. I just looked up how many axe murders are there. Okay. Oh my God. I didn't know. I thought that was the movies.
No, that's a hell of a weapon to use. Axes have been used a lot.
Now, the list I'm looking at here goes back to, oh, geez. Okay, well, 579 BC, 1209, but then it picks up 1828.
I know, but the thing is, back before then, what else did they have to kill somebody with that was really handy? It was the axe. But when you get to the 1800s, they had guns.
And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. I'm at 1934. 47, 48, 49, 50, 1947, 51, 52, 53, 55, 60, 61, 62, 63, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 1990, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 2012, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 98 on this list through 2023.
Okay.
From 1823 to 2023.
Now look up in the last 100 years, how many people in America have been killed by a bear?
Yeah. What is that? What
the numbers?
Just tell me.
No, I don't know what the number is. I mean, I looked it up at one point and it's minuscule. People don't get killed by bears. I'm more scared of a bear than I am an axe.
Yeah, or a shark.
Well, but more people get killed by deer every year in the United States than they do by sharks worldwide.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? I read a fact a couple of weeks ago. Not to get too sideways in this. You are more likely to be killed by a vending machine than you are a bear.
Absolutely. The same with a coconut. You're going to get killed by a coconut more than you will a bear.
Yeah. There are more vending machine deaths in the United States than there are bear deaths.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to axe murders, I bet none of those axe murders were from the Midwest. We're way, way too pleasant out here. If we're going to kill somebody, we'd cook for them over a long period of time and kill them by cholesterol.
That Lizzie Borden.
She was from the East Coast. Come on.
Oh, was she East Coast?
Crazy.
Yeah, it makes sense. Going back to Iowa, 1977, what happened?
What happened in Iowa in 1977? Is it the what did happen?
I'm asking you.
I know what happened in Iowa in 1977.
It's your book.
Oh, so are you talking about the is it a UFO encounter?
Yes.
Okay, so that'd be Big Lake Park in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I've written a lot of books. You put me on the spot, Jimmy.
Well, because this one involves Jacques Vallée, my good friend.
It does. It does involve Jacques Vallée. And okay, Big Lake Park, 1977, around Christmas in December. A couple of young people. The guy was the son of the assistant Council Bluffs fire chief. That'll get important in a minute. He and his girlfriend were driving around Big Lake Park one night, and there were people. That's what you just did. You drove around the park and probably stopped and made out. But there was something in the sky that night. It was a white ball with a red line bisecting it. And they stopped the car to look at it, and something dropped out of it. Something glowing white dropped out of it. And they went to see what it was. And a few other people driving through the park saw it and did the same thing. By the time they all got there, the fire department was there. Since the guy I interviewed's father was the assistant chief, he let him get close enough to see what it was. And it was a pile of molten metal, a glob of molten metal that was starting to cool because it had been, it was December and it was snowing and it's Iowa. But the middle of it was still glowing white and this very center blue. It was that hot. And, well, the thing in the sky had gone away. What happened here was they reported to the newspaper what they saw. The fire department was interviewed about it. So all these people saw this from different parts of the park, saw the same glowing object, drop something in the park, and it was this metal. They broke this when it got cool. They broke the metal apart and sent it off to a couple of different labs to see what it was.
How big was the blob?
It was, I don't know, probably about the size of a desk, maybe. Okay. But they sent it off, and I interviewed one of, I can't believe he was still working at the university, Iowa State University. But I interviewed him about this, and he said it's just slag. That's all it is. And slag is when you take ore and you extract the good metal. The slag is the stuff you don't need.
Yeah, it's industrial waste.
It's the garbage.
Right.
And so the question was, these different people who didn't know each other on different parts of the park saw the exact same thing floating in the sky, dropped this ball or dropped this glob of slag in the park. And why would this happen? What is the logical explanation? There was a railroad track about 100 yards away from the slag. And some people were like, oh, well, maybe it fell off the train. Okay, well, it's not going to be that hot. One, why would a train be transporting slag that it dumped? Why would it still be white and blue hot? when they dumped it. I mean, because all that was totally illogical. But Jacques Vallée got involved, and he wrote a paper about not just that, but 9 other identical occurrences throughout the world of UFOs dumping slag onto the ground and then taking off. What he came up with, his explanation was they were UFOs that extracted raw material, took what they needed, and left the rest. And
Makes sense.
yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. This is still, this is still, an unsolved case. Nobody knows really what happened. All they know was that this glob of molten slag was dropped in a park in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Here's the thing. Before people say anything about stuff like this, listen to me. What are we doing right now? What are we Earthlings doing right now? Before you wonder or ask, why would ET do something like this? What are we doing right now? We are trying to get landers on the moon to scoop up stuff and look for water. We are sending probes to the moon to see what moon dust is made of, right? Scooping up, checking out, processing, testing, heating, dropping water on it. We're doing all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing on Mars? We've got so many rovers on Mars right now, cruising all over the planet, doing what? Drilling, scooping, rock samples, putting in canisters, dropping it off for later so we can go back and pick it up. Right? That's what we're doing. Why wouldn't ET process stuff from this planet? Of course they would.
Of course they would. And I'm going to add to that because I've heard so many interviews, people say, okay, if they're so advanced, why is ET still kidnapping people, taking sperm, taking eggs, butt probing? Right. Why are they coring out the tongues and the anuses of cows?
Right.
We don't know what their scientific process is.
But we do the same thing. We do the same thing, Jason. Yeah. I lived in Panama. Check this out. I lived in Panama, Central America. Next to my house was a Smithsonian Ocean Research Center. Okay? I could walk there. It was out on these pylons, these piers, went out, giant glass built. It was cool. I knew people that worked there. And I went in. You know what was in there? Tanks of species. Mm-hmm. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, this is what you need to think about. How many families didn't have their moms come home at night because that mom is now in a tank at the Smithsonian?
Yeah. So they didn't go out.
That's the way my brain. Yeah, that's the way my brain works. Yeah. And so we do it here. That's all we do is bag and tag.
It's 100% what we do.
Yeah. So, but ET, no, my God, so, and I'm not trying to be negative or weird. I'm just saying, if you want to think about how ET would justify or think about or do things, what do we do? Why wouldn't ET come and find this planet? All we do every day is what? Look for other planets. That's what we do. Why would ET be any different?
Right. And, why the argument about why is Earth so special that they come here and visit? How many planets have we found that we can say that there's definitely water on? There are definitely oceans out there. They're in the Goldilocks zone and that can create life that we know about. There aren't that many. So we might be special in that way. So of course they'd find us.
Except that was a valid thought 25 years ago. That was a valid thought 20 years ago. Except things have changed. Our Milky Way, Jason, I'm not talking down to you. I'm just saying, okay, so just hear me out. Our Milky Way has around 1 trillion stars. Every star has at least one planet. That's 1 trillion, at least, planets. A trillion is 1,000 billion, right? A billion is 1,000 million. When you get to that number, a trillion, you're at a number. A trillion is a big ass number. We throw it around today like it's nothing.
Yeah, but we can't understand it.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
So if you just take a small percentage of a trillion, and let's go with 0.1%, right? 0.1%. You're at 100 billion rocky Earth-like planets in the Goldilocks zone. 0.1%.
Right.
Now,
well, I mentioned earlier, Jimmy, that
statistically in our Milky Way.
Statistically speaking, there has to be life out there.
A shit ton of it.
A shit ton of it. I totally agree. Maybe not a lost in space shit ton of it, but enough.
Yeah, somebody said a 10th to the 9th, 1 trillion. Yeah, it's like it's an insane number. And what if, and this is what Avi Loeb said to me. We are at dinner. It sounds like I'm bragging. Well, I am. I was having dinner with Avi Loeb, sitting next to me.
Well, I had, while we're bragging, I had lunch with Stanton Friedman once.
I've had many lunches with Stanton, and they were all great. Now, Avi said to me, he goes, we've got a lot more than 1 trillion planets. And I said, how do you, he goes, there's 8 planets in our solar system. So we have 8 here just with our sun. So you would have to ask how many other solar systems have more than 1 planet? They have at least 1, but how many have more and multiples? And that's when you get to another number, like 2 trillion planets, the numbers just in our little Milky Way, how much life is just right here. And we're looking for all of those planets to look for water and, another Earth-like planet. Well, ET, that's 1,000 years in front of us. Just 1,000 years. What if it's 1 billion years in front of us? How advanced are they? And how many have found Earth? Well, a lot. It's a huge number.
I know, absolutely. And as old as the universe is, they might have, civilizations out there might have advanced, visited us, and they're now, dead from, they might all be dead out there.
True.
We have no idea.
So true. And if that many planets are out there, then you have to have time management. How much time do you spend on a planet or researching it before you move on to the next one? A couple of seconds, you do a drive-by, throw a probe down, do the analysis of the atmosphere and DNA and come back with a cow or two. Well, I don't know. But, and then you move on because there are another 500 billion planets that you've got to go and check out. I don't know. I don't have these answers, but I do know.
We don't. They might drive by the Earth and go, what the hell are they doing down there? And just keep going. But I'm absolutely convinced that we've been visited for a long time.
Sure.
I think there's plenty plenty of evidence that gets discounted by science. And I hate to say it that way because it sounds like I'm discounting science. And I view things through a scientific lens, but I think we miss a few things along the way by doing it that way.
Science helps support my woo-woo.
Yeah.
That's all I need, right? Because I'm full woo. I'm full woo. I am full woo. I've seen too much and experienced too much. I'm full woo. But I need the science to support my woo-ness. That keeps me in check, before I fall into some deep psychosis, and I'm comfortable with that. But the more that I look at science is just merely supporting everything that you and I talked about tonight.
They are, and science only reports on what it sees and what it can figure out via math. And if it hasn't seen what other people, what non-scientists have seen, they're not gonna have an opinion about it, except for, we don't know yet. And I'm okay with that, because I think in a lot of these cases, you mentioned Bigfoot body. At some point, we're going to get one.
Yeah, we will.
At some point, we're going to, who knows if we have a UFO or a UAP or whatever you want to call it. Who knows if we have one already? Chances are we might. But until that comes out, we're not going to know. It's not going to be scientifically proven. That's where I'm going.
Hey, congratulations, Grandpa.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Her and I and my daughter and her husband are going to go to the beach tomorrow.
Man, congratulations. And where can everybody check out all of your stuff and all of your books?
JasonOffutt.com is my website. It's got all my contact information, all my books. I'm also, everything's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all the fun places.
Thank you so much, Jason. Great to see you again, and I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you so much.
Jimmy, I appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great night, man.
Hey, have fun tomorrow. That's amazing. That's what I'm talking about. Jason Offutt, everybody. His links are on our website. They are below and throughout social media. Jason, great conversation tonight. And what am I doing tomorrow night? Hold on. I'll tell you what I'm doing tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow night, Preston Dennett is back with us. He's got a new book out, Humanoids and High Strangeness. So until tomorrow night with Preston, for now, all I've got is Go Backly Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Backly Tappy.